Welcome to Daikaiju Network, where we have a very healthy obsession with Kaiju. I'm your co-host, Kent, and with me is my other co-host,
Jason.
For the first time in 3 years, we're podcasting in the same space.
It doesn't quite seem like 3 years, and then, you know, with all the graphics and everything here, I mean, probably don't need to really worry about it. I mean, it's just all basic. All that's just on my other computer at home, so I just got everything set up on my laptop. So it's just kind of very, very basic for the time being. So yeah, we're right here over at Kent's. This is my first time here since 2019. Doesn't quite seem like it. But yeah, so today we're going to be kind of doing our usual sort of tradition here as far as discussing and going over the schedule for this year's GFEST, which is GFEST 27, which should have taken place a couple of years ago.
Very likely, too, this will be our last one in quite a while because Jason doesn't intend on going to GFEST again for a while. I may or may not return, depending upon my son and just kind of whether or not I want to deal with hotel reservations and traffic and all that fun stuff. So this will be our last one for a while, just because at least both of us at the same time aren't going to be going to the convention for a little while. And so for me, we got a second screen here with the schedule. I have not seen the schedule, so this will be my first time in the years that we've been doing this where I have no clue as to what many of the panels are. I had totally forgotten it was released here a few days ago. So.
Yeah, I just briefly skimmed through it the other day before posting it on our Facebook page here the other day, because I know they just revealed the full map of the dealer's room, or which vendor is going to be at what location there. And then I think about a half hour after that reveal that I just noticed that they got this full schedule posted over at the gfan.com over here. So yeah, I just skimmed over it. So I didn't really see a whole lot from what I saw here. So basically, we're just going to go into detail, kind of like what we've done over the years since we started doing podcasts. I mean, so yeah, just kind of go through each day and then just kind of discuss each one, description, so on and so forth, and then just kind of discuss as far as maybe some of our interests that we're thinking about going there. I mean, obviously, we don't really need to talk about the whole dealer's room thing because that's what everybody's going to be doing.
I think most people are on top of that anyway.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of minimize our window here because we've got the schedule here.
But first, before we start, Jason, are you excited about going to GFEST after 2 years of it being canceled?
Yeah. Originally, a few years ago, I wanted it to be the last, so it's kind of carried on over. But yeah, I've been at least looking forward to this specific one here. Just kind of be at least kind of a good send off for me to be the last one for the time being, and also it's kind of full on circle because 10 years ago this year it was our very first GFEST 10 years ago with GFEST 19. So it's kind of bringing back a little bit of those memories of when both you and I went there for the very first time when Kira Takarada. I mean, we're going to kind of maybe talk a little bit about that. I know we've discussed about it a little bit earlier because I know there's some things from what I saw briefly on here that they're going to talk about on that whole front. So how about you? Are you excited?
Yeah,
looking forward to it?
Anyone who has been to our website and saw a sort of an open letter that I wrote a couple of years ago to the higher ups at GFEST, which I highly doubt anyone ever saw it. But my biggest my biggest thing about GFEST is that it's unfortunately, and we talked about this before in the past, where the first few times you go, obviously it's incredible, but then after a while, sadly, you still get kind of excited about it, but the novelty begins to wear off. And that's the unfortunate thing about anything you do. The first couple times or so it's exciting, then after a while you're just kind of like, okay, like, here we go. And we kind of kept doing it, I think, not just because we're fans, but I think it was a thing for Jason and I to really come together and just see each other in person for a few days to a week. So to be perfectly honest, if it weren't for my son, I don't know if I would go. But I think one of the things that's helping me to be more excited about it this year is the fact that we're getting a new location, a bigger hotel, just a more interesting layout. I checked out some of the stuff at the hotel, and to be perfectly honest, look, I'm excited about the convention. I might be just a bit more excited about checking out the hotel. It seems to be a pretty big, interesting, fancy place that I just am looking forward to checking out. I'm excited that just to see my son's reaction to this. He's 7.5. I still don't necessarily think he's old enough to really appreciate every aspect of the convention, but we'll see. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But one of the things that I wrote in that open letter to the higher ups at GFEST was that the convention, I think, needs to try to keep something interesting. Like, I'm not necessarily, you can go read that at our website, but I gave out some possible solutions to people like us who had been going for a while, and it got to a point where, at least for us, it just kind of got stale in terms of the convention itself, where other than different subject matters in the panels, it's the same thing time after time after time. And
then just to kind of get onto that little point, that after sort of skimming through this, it's still a little bit of the same thing.
Yeah.
And with the 2-year hiatus due to the whole pandemic thing, it's just sort of let's kind of getting back to some of these, with Godzilla versus Hedorah, for one example, is kind of one of the first things, having a like, it just had a 50th anniversary a couple of years ago, but they're still touching upon that here. So it's basically, literally everything that should have happened in 2020. So it's just
21 for Hedorah, but
yeah.
Well, and the thing is let's talk about the elephant in the room. Anybody who's paid any attention over the last roughly year-ish knows that there is this new rule put in place for artists in Artist
And
Alley.
I know that we've sort of talked about it.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk smack, but at the same time, I think one of the things, like I've said before, one of the things I'm very proud of with our podcast is we'll touch upon certain subjects that really no other kaiju podcast will touch on for obvious reasons. But I think it's important to not only bring out some dirty laundry when it's necessary, but to provide our insight as well, because I think when you don't address an issue, then that issue is never going to get solved, and it's going to continue to get worse.
Yeah.
And this whole rule with Artist Alley that they have to get some sort of license from Toho is really dumb. It's one of the dumbest things I have ever seen, because Toho isn't going to do that. And good luck trying to get in touch with them for that anyways. And the sad result of this is you have many artists not attending. They
just kind of going on strike.
For some of them it's a strike, but for others it's that no one's going to want to buy anything else that I do, or mostly what I do is kaiju. So I'm not going to be able to put anything together in time to sell. And not only that, too, it's really part of it, I think, too, is the fact that the format of the convention, like, again, other than the location, there's really nothing new as far as content or anything for long timers like us that have been going. But there are a lot of people that in general aren't going. Part of it is the content and the fact that the format hasn't changed, or that there's really nothing new going on with the convention to try to keep things fresh for people who have been going for a while. But part of it too, again, let's face it, some of the politics that have been kind of involved the last couple of years with the convention. It's very unfortunate. I've seen some of those Twitter posts, and it wasn't good. I think some of the decision making and the thought processes behind certain things were awful. I don't think it was putting the health, safety, and wellness of fans in one case in the forefront. I can understand the fact that they had booked it and they had put down like a deposit or whatever, but you could get that deposit back because we've been going through a pandemic and all that. These places aren't just going to take your money. If they are, then they're really shitty. Don't do business with them again. But there were just some bad decision making, and certain things also led sadly to Robert Scott Field not coming back. There was some awful bad blood there. Before my one laptop crapped the bed here like 2 months ago, I had the entire transcript of Robert Scott Field and a particular individual that they aired dirty laundry out there in the open. I mean, you could go out there and find this. I mean, this is not a super secret. I mean, it's out there in the open. And sadly, I didn't back up that transcript, but it was bad. And I'm just going to say this, and I know for some people this is going to be already, it probably is a hot button issue, just even for us to talk about some of this stuff. We're kind of pussyfooting around some of this a bit because I don't want that to be the focus here. But I do think it's very important now that with so many people not attending, things I think do need to change. And, I don't know how that goes about. I know there are other kaiju conventions that are popping up almost every year. There's one in Indiana happening in September.
Yeah, I forget the one name, but I know they're sort of doing a special edition geared towards kaiju and everything. And I know that they were going to originally have Kira Takarada here, but obviously all of you unfortunately know.
But yeah, things have to change. And I think if they don't, again, like I said a few minutes ago, if you don't address it, things are at least going to continue. And maybe get worse.
And I know that I've mentioned about this being the last one for a while, even, a couple of years ago when this one was going to originally take place before the whole pandemic. But with all this sort of arise, it wasn't it really wasn't part of it, but after with what Ken has mentioned about and stuff, and I think you've shown me that transcript before in the past. I think some of the screenshots too. It's sort of piled onto it, but it's not my reason for it being sort of my last going around for GFEST, but you can say it's part of it with the addition to that. But for me, it's just more or less trying to do other things besides. I mean, we've been doing this almost every year. It's like sometimes, kind of want to do some other things as far as.
But anyway, let's get going here with the actual
Yeah.
schedule here. So Friday, July 15th, I'm already upset because there are 2 panels happening at the same time that I would like to go to.
And then obviously you can see Thursday, July 14th. This is kind of what they usually do the day before with a double feature bill over at the Pickwick Theater. You can see what's going to be shown at Pickwick here with Hedora, Megalon, 54, and then our little personal favorite here.
By the way,
I
apologize to people who are listening to the audio version.
Yeah.
Of this. You can follow along with us. Just go to the GFan website and pull up the calendar.
Yeah, just go under the GFEST navigation. There should be a pop-up and then a schedule button there. So, yeah. Anyways, on with Friday here. As usual, there's always a orientation of the GFEST being the very first thing. Here, just about questions and answer session with the organizers to help attendees to get most out of their weekend, and with the being a bigger convention this time around with a new location, although it's just a block or two from Crown Plaza where we've been at for the majority of the time when we've been going there. And then so on and so forth. I think we've maybe have been to that one once or twice.
We checked it out one time 3 or 4 years ago just to get an idea, just in case like maybe we were missing out on something somewhere. But yeah, we didn't stay for the whole thing. But we never went to this thing when we first attended 10 years ago. Anyone who is new, I mean, it's up to you. But we did just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, really, all you're doing is you're looking at the schedule and figuring out what panels you want to go to. Like I was saying here, sometimes there's a conflict of interest if there are a couple going on at the same time that you want to attend. But otherwise, it's just a matter of, more than anything else, I would recommend for people, and of course, this is going to be the first time for everybody because this is a brand new location. Get to know the floor plan first. So that way you know where you need to go. And then after that, again, just look at the schedule, figure out what panels. I mean, that's about it.
Yeah. So basically, the official convention program, which hopefully you should be able to get right away when you pay. If you haven't made a reservation up front, getting advance tickets for a specific day or for the entire weekend, you should be able to get a program for free. That's basically going to be your best friend overall as far as the schedule, and then there's going to be the map of the dealer's room in there, as well as some of probably the GFEST channel that they should probably,
if they continue that, I would assume they would
have over here. And we do have one maybe little comment over here, and this is by Martin Oltz. The orientation session is really for convention newbies. A lot of attendees don't really need to go to other conventions. So yeah, that's thank you for that, Martin. But yeah, it's kind of it's a thing for anyone that's new to the convention. And I know we've kind of dealt within that for a little bit. I think maybe a couple, maybe 2-3 years into our thing. So we just thought we'd check it out for a little bit. But so the first 3 panels that we have here after the GFEST orientation, which I'm probably guessing is your sort of conflict of interest.
Well,
here.
no, the Gigan one's an hour after those first 2, so I'm not going to have a problem with that. But
okay. So yeah, basically the first 3 panels here is just mainly just celebrating, just diving into the specific movies here on their special anniversaries, just kind of going through, talking about the movie and maybe some tidbits behind the scenes, I think.
Me personally, in terms of panels, the anniversary panels are my favorite because being a history major, like Jason was saying, depending upon who's presenting, usually there is a little bit of history in terms of the conception of the film, how it was made, etc., and then sort of its impact at the time of its release and then its legacy as well. And so for me, I enjoy the celebration panels. I just think they're a lot of fun. I think that's where you really get a lot of information about said films. Yeah, I think anyone who is going to the convention for the first time this year, you definitely need to check out some of these anniversary panels. In my opinion, I think they're really fun.
Yeah. And then so onward to the next one, sort of around the same time with the Gigan anniversary panel. This is sort of, you know, this one here sort of hits home to both of us because, you know, from like a long time ago, we sort of did something with we were big fans of wrestling back in the day, you know, around that early 2000s, late 90s. And we sort of combined it with Monsters. We did sort of an online monster wrestling federation. So this is kind of hitting home with both of us.
If any of you guys
Tokusatsu
out there remember years ago, Monster Championship Wrestling. That was us.
Yeah. So with that, this one here is about kaiju movies are often, glibly? If that's how you pronounce it.
Are often glibly derided.
Yeah, derided as rubber monster wrestling flicks, but personal wrestling and Japanese special effects features actually do have a complex interwoven history. This panel covers how the two mediums have influenced one another, as well as characters and performers that have crossed over between the two, with Chris Eaton and Kevin Derendorf.
This one, why the legendary films are important, I think is important to Tim. If any of you watched either live or since we put it up last year, our Daikaiju Fest, we not only discussed Godzilla vs. Kong, but we talked about the legendary era of kaiju films as well. And you know, I think we both said that, look, you know, they aren't perfect. Really, no film is, unless it's Rocky IV. But
that's for another thing.
But you know, they aren't perfect. I still, even though I've seen the movie 25 or so times, Godzilla vs. Kong is a film that I find to be entertaining, but I still have issues with it. To try to put it in a nutshell, as far as what I think of the movie, fun, but not the Godzilla vs. Kong movie I would have written and produced. But I still think the legendary films provide a greater access to a wider general audience because, look, let's face it, the Toho films, if they were released here in the States, kind of like Shin Godzilla was here nearly 6 years ago, you know, instead of a one-night event, let's say you had the film out for a week, you would get people out there in the theater, but it's not going to be, you know, like even a moderately successful Hollywood film, in that you're going to attract decent-sized crowds, or even fill a theater up like half full every time. Because unfortunately, there's still the stigma around Japanese cinema with the American public at large. And I think that's gradually changing. I think as generations, starting with either Gen X or ours, you know, as we're kind of taking over the world now, and the boomers, I don't know how else to put this, are on their way out. Sorry. I don't know how else to explain it. You know, our generations, the younger generations, were more exposed to this stuff. We had cable. Cable brought along all sorts of different channels where there were movies and TV shows where we as kids grew up watching this stuff. And as a result, our generation and younger, and maybe even Gen X, we're more open and accepting of this stuff. Whereas you look at the older generations, there's still this stigma of, oh my gosh, like Japanese cinema, bad, we all know the bad stigmas and stereotypes kind of surrounding what people think of foreign films. And it's different now, but there's still a bit of that stigma out there. You still find it. It's not quite as prevalent as it used to be. But the legendary films bring in those types of audiences because you are getting Hollywood involved. You are getting the bigger budgets. You are getting maybe some familiar actors in these films. And I think in a way that is, I think in a way you probably can win some new fans over with that. Some may like the legendary films, but still may not care for the Toho stuff. But I still think the legendary films play a huge role in creating access, not just for creating a new generation of fans, those who are young as these films are being released, but for people who have been around for a while and are aware of such films, but maybe saw only a few or avoided them for a while, what have you. So I think that panel, why the legendary films are important, is an important panel to attend.
And so right around the same time as the legendary panel there, we got the Planet of the Kaiju Haiku, a brief presentation and workshop on GFEST, GFan, and Godzilla themed short poetry. And I think this was something that we saw many years ago. I think at our first or probably the second, where they sort of did, well, it's more or less fan created stories, but I think this is sort of a bit similar to that sort of panel from many years ago. And as obviously with the description, it reads, this panel is a short poetry writing workshop led by international Kaiju Haiku poet Juan M. Perez and poet writer Malia A. Perez. Attendees will be briefed on the haiku form of poetry and will be able to write their own Kaiju haiku. Boy, I can't.
Going through puberty?
I can't pronounce things. For a possible future GFan article, writing materials will be provided at this fun-filled workshop.
I need to brush up on how to put a haiku together. I did when I was in middle school in my English class. We had to write different types of poetry, and I remember haiku was one that we had to do.
Yeah, the last time I remember doing anything with haiku or poetry was in elementary school. That was a long time ago.
When I was in community college, this would have been like in 2004, 2005, I got pretty big into writing poetry for about a year or two, but really haven't done anything since.
And so we got this next one here at around 3 o'clock.
I almost need glasses or something. Cinema Symbiosis 3. Did we miss part 1 and 2? Or what is this? I don't remember anything of part 1 or 2.
Yeah, I don't
Or is
remember.
it just a name? Like,
I'm guessing that's just a name, but yeah, I didn't see anything above here. Actually,
no. Maybe the 3 stands for Godzilla, Raymond Burr, and Godzilla King of the Monsters. Although that's a math formula, so I don't know. Okay. Basically, it is the 3rd installment. Examination of international cultural influences of giant monster movies looks at the Americanization of the 54 Godzilla. Wow. I don't remember parts 1 or 2. I'm gonna have to go back to
I'm sort of guessing that was probably before our time.
No, because we were going for 8 straight years before COVID hit and canceled these last 2.
I mean, I actually don't quite remember. even remember if there was a Symbiosis.
Maybe there was, and it just was something that at the time maybe didn't interest us. I don't know.
I think I knew at least a little bit of some of the things that have gone on with the whole Americanization of the 54 film, but I think this one would at least be interesting to maybe go to for a little bit.
I have been, and I think we talked about this because didn't we do a commentary on King of the Monsters earlier in the year?
Yeah.
And I talked about it. Peter H. Brothers wrote a book a handful of years ago on not just the production of the 54 film, but also the American edit as well. It's all in the same book. Atomic Dreams and Nuclear Nightmares, I think is what it's called. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Just look up Peter H. Brothers and you'll find it. But I have become a defender of the Americanized version of the 54 film. Again, I will admit it's not as good as the 54, but I do think in some ways with its editing, the pacing is not only more brisk, but I think a little bit more suitable, I guess, because that 54 film, in my opinion, in some pieces drags a bit. I think the pacing is a little bit better. Plus Raymond Burr.
Mm-hmm.
Raymond Burr. Yes, a lot of the themes and sort of the heart and soul of what the 54 film was about was gutted.
Yeah.
But I would even argue, though, that while that's true, I still wouldn't even say that the Americanized version is like a stereotypical 50s American monster flick. Because some of that stuff was still kept in the Americanized edit, but there still was heart to it. It wasn't like the beginning of the end or something like that. It wasn't some sort of run-of-the-mill quick put. I mean, technically it was a quick put together where they, I forget how much money they had to re-edit and reshoot some scenes, but it wasn't much. But still, like, Raymond Burr brings cachet.
Yeah.
I like Raymond Burr. I think he's a fine actor.
Yeah. And okay, so this next panel.
This one was done before. Godzilla National Spirit. I remember it was, it was sometime between 17 and 19. Someone did a panel like this.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they want to revisit it again, or I'm not sure if why they're actually doing it again. But yeah, so you can kind of see here on the description is the politics of Shin Godzilla, right-wing and nationalists. Brian at Kaiju Vision says it's actually a patriotism during a devastating national crisis with the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Was a through comparative study. He presents what the film's domestic Japanese audience saw.
I'm remembering now. Steve Rifle and Ed Gajaszewski did a panel like this because I remember Ed was talking about when the film came out and he was in Japan. He was asking like one of his friends who had seen it the night before, and he asked him something to the effect of, I wish I could remember what he asked his friend exactly, but it was something to the effect of, what did you think of the Godzilla scenes or something like that? And his friend responded to the degree of, like, Godzilla was in it? Like, because, yeah, the Japan, I mean, his friend, I'm sure, was kind of like pulling his leg a little bit because Godzilla is very prominent in the movie, obviously. But the film is definitely different in that how the Japanese see it because of what they went through in 2011 and then some of the politics that were kind of happening a handful of years and leading up to the production of that film. I have personal opinions on it. Anyone who's been
who's seen our episodes over the years,
don't we all? Again, for anyone who hasn't really watched us or listened to us over the years, I don't like the movie. It's not so much because of the politics, that's a small thing. Like that on my list of reasons why I don't care for Shin Godzilla. That's like down near the bottom. But I just don't think Shin Godzilla is a good movie. I don't think it's a good. I don't think it's a good movie on politics. I don't think it's a good Godzilla movie. Period. So you know, um, you know, I think it is an interesting thing for Westerners to get into the mindset. You know, no offense to Brian here, who's presenting this panel, but I would rather have a Japanese individual present this.
Just kind of get their perspective
Because
on it.
you will get a more authentic look at exactly how they view it.
Yeah, their point of view.
So after that, at 4, the Jeopardy 2022 Kid Championship, self-explanatory.
Yep.
Another anniversary panel here. Oh,
yeah,
Space Amoeba.
Yeah, Space Amoeba, which we just talked about here, I think earlier in the year, I believe, or late last year. I don't know if it was a commentary or a regular discussion.
I thought we talked about that like years ago.
Not that I know of, because
I'm almost positive.
Because when I looked on the list, it was pretty recent. But yeah, so obviously another special anniversary panel there for Space Amoeba. So it's self-explanatory there, as well as the rest there for Friday with opening ceremonies, radioactive karaoke, and the viewing of Godzilla vs. Kong over at the Pickwick Theater. And we move on to day numero dos on Saturday, July 6th. There, and like I mentioned about earlier in our show, that they were going to be doing a little bit of a discussion on the life, career, and legacy of Akira Takarada, starting at 10 o'clock over at the Grand Ballroom B and or C.
I think it's both B and C. It's kind of like what they did at.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. So we'll have to see there. So as what the description reads, this year we lost Akira Takarada, one of the biggest stars to appear in the Godzilla and other fantasy films from the 1950s into the 21st century. And while we all know him from our favorite kaiju films, his life and career was much more than that. This special panel will explore Takarada-san's life, his films, and beyond, and discuss his introduction to Western G fandom through his numerous convention appearances. And I know this one would be probably the one that both you and I would be interested in going to.
Well, yeah, it would. But again, conflict of interest, because look at what's listed next. End of an era, Terra Godzilla. More or less, looking at the film itself, ending the show era, even though if you want to get technical, yes, Godzilla 1984 was technically in the Showa era. But yeah, I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do there, because that's a panel I'm definitely interested in as well.
And then we, of course, got one of the interviews with one of the special guests at this year's GFEST convention with Hiroyuki Kawase. And then we got another panel here, the Warring 20s, starting at 11 a.m.
So
in the Ballroom A.
So just because of COVID, the panel is basically about just covering movies and shows that have been released over the last couple of years, and just a discussion on that media.
Yep. And then after that, we got another special guest interview, this time with Tomoko Ai. And then at noon in Grand Ballroom A is the Kaiju Video Games History Raids Again, where the description reads, there are more Kaiju-themed video games than you think. 13 AM Games creative director Alex Rushdie guides you through the further history of digital monsters from the earliest days of art form to the present. I think that might be sort of an interesting.
I
one to take a
pre-ordered
look
a
into.
Kaiju game from Limited Games here earlier in the year. I forget the name of it.
And then I know there's one called Dawn of the Monsters.
I think that's the one.
Coming soon, or you said you already got it. If you do, if not, then it'll probably be coming soon, or it's already out. And then, unfortunately, I don't know if any of you have seen the post from the official GFan Facebook page that Dom Fry, he is not going to be attending. He was originally going to be, but he's not going to be attending now because due to back issues, and he was just recently hospitalized with that. So hope he recovers well from the back issues.
I'm surprised he's back because I remember when he was last there in 2017, I think it was. He was having issues then. Like he had to cancel 1 or 2 panels because of back issues. But can I say something about him for a moment? I mean, I'm surprised he's back, not just because of some of the back issues, but in one of his panels, like I think it was 17, he like brought up some stuff that really should not have been brought up at a kaiju convention, and also it was not appropriate for, you know, an audience in which there were children present as well. You know, because there were a lot of people, you know, who had issues with it. It's like, okay, dude, you're entitled to your political opinion, but first of all, keep that out of a convention that doesn't involve, you know, the talking of like American politics and what have you. But at the same time, there was like some violent rhetoric he had said in that particular panel as well. That was uncalled for, and you know, you can't be doing that. You just can't be doing that. I kind of like, you just don't do that. You just don't. If you want to do that on your Facebook page or whatever, then you go for it. But
so with that, let's see here. Okay, with Martin Alt, he raised that Ballroom B and C is 2 rooms open up and combined. So
told you.
Well, I wasn't entirely sure, but yeah, thanks for that info there, Martin. Okay, so why don't you go talk about this next panel here?
Destroy all teasers, lost film trailer reel. So I'm just briefly reading it and try to put it in a nutshell. As
well, why don't you read it out loud here?
I thought about it, but then I don't want to just anybody else can do this. So basically, just teaser trailers for movies that they were trying to pitch to studios and they never got made.
Okay, so, and then right around 2 o'clock, and we just briefly touched upon this just a few minutes ago with Dawn of the Monsters in Grand Ballroom B and C. And it says here, the ultimate panel on Dawn of the Monsters, the smash hit video game from 13 AM Games. Okay. Join the developers of the title in discussing the entire project from start to finish with a touch of behind-the-scenes secrets. Now.
Those are new glasses, right?
Yes. Q&A,
go back to the optometrist.
giveaways, and more with Alex Rushdie and Steve Roberts.
And Kaiju Writers Unite, I think this is one where they kind of talk about helping people put their kaiju writing together. Love from monster-loving wordsmiths. Panel of writers. YouTube author. Okay, so yeah, it's a panel of folks who are writers and content producers, basically taking questions from the audience for those who are interested in putting together like their fanfics and stuff.
And then right after that, in Grand Ballroom B/C, we get the Kaiju Kingdom podcast with Jessica Sane and Chris Eaton. That they're bringing along, was it Darnell Isom of Legacy FX, and which he recently was head designer of Mothra and Legendary's 2019 Godzilla King of the Monsters and Mechagodzilla for 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong. Come join the lively discussion about our favorite Queen of the Monsters and Darnell's past works, including Jurassic Park, Pacific Rim, Captain America Winter Soldier, Iron Man 3, AVP, Requiem, and Resident Evil Extinction. Exclusive, never before seen art will be shown. And so I think that probably be a bit interesting, kind of get the behind the scenes on some of those movies I know we've all have heard. So at 3 o'clock, at the same time, we get Matt and Hiroshi live art drawing. So you get
those are fun. Matt's done, I think, a couple of those at least in the past. If you're into art and in drawing yourself, I like watching other people draw because I like to pick up pointers in terms of how other people draw certain things and kind of just how they in general put something together. If you're interested at all in art yourself in terms of producing it, I would check something like this out.
Yeah. And then right after that, we get Collect All Monsters Nerdy 30, which is another kind of live stream / podcast.
It is a podcast, yeah.
With Kyle Yount there. So it says, Collect All Monsters brings the live stream format to the live audience. Join the hosts of the monthly show dedicated to the collectible side of kaiju genre with Leslie Chambers, Christine Chaplin, David Chapin. No, it says Chaplin. See right there.
I thought her name
David
was Chaplin.
John Ruffin from Mike Kaiju and Kyle Yount for the 30th episode of the show. Panel will be filmed for YouTube. So I think that would be at least interesting, just to kind of see. I haven't really watched much of this Collect All Monsters podcast. I'll have to kind of take a look at it.
If you're big, obviously, if you're big into collecting kaiju, that's the thing to watch. I don't really collect anymore.
I know you talked about your Bandai collection and how much you sort of regret it over the years.
I was engaged and gonna get married soon, and I needed not just space but money. So, so behind the kaiju curtain, this is going to be a live stream with Norman England. He's the author of the same book by the same title. I got the book. I started reading it, either late last year, early this year. I didn't finish it yet, but it's his experience on a handful of kaiju sets. Like, thinking off the top of my head, like a couple of them were Gamera 3. There was also GMK. I would list some other films, but I'm not 100% sure if he actually does cover them. I don't have the book in front of me here to verify that, but it is an interesting book so far because it's sort of not just a fan's experience in terms of meeting up with directors and being on the sets of these films and kind of seeing how they're put together. It's in a way too sort of a Westerner's viewpoint in terms of how Japanese cinema, and obviously more specific, the Kaiju Eiga, is put together. It's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then about a couple hours, 2.5 hours after that, they'll be doing the Jeopardy 2022 Adult Qualifier and Championship.
I tried that a few years ago.
I think it was the last one that we went to.
No, it was in 18, I think.
Are you sure? I thought it was 2019.
It wasn't the last one. No.
But yeah, I think Well, I think you got, was it second place or was it last place on that one?
I think I was in second, but then during Final Jeopardy, I bet all my points and got the Final Jeopardy question wrong.
And then after that, we get the GFAN Hall of Fame Awards ceremony. Nothing needs to be said there. And then, of course, you got the costume parade. You know, kind of the one of the main
Those are
attractions
fun.
there. Yeah,
You got kids. Like I'm bringing my son for the first time this year. That's something they will enjoy.
definitely. And then after that, we get the Pickwick Theater showing of Terror of Mechagodzilla, and that basically wraps up day number 2. And then we get day numero tres and Sunday,
crap, really?
July
Because we're
16th.
leaving Sunday.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Kent
'Cause
and
here,
his son are
again,
going to be leaving.
Another anniversary panel of King Kong vs. Godzilla. I actually watched that movie, well, the American edit, anyways, here a couple of weeks ago. The American edit, kind of like the Raymond Burr King of the Monsters, I think gets a bad rap too.
Yeah, let's just kind of dive into the description here. So, King Kong vs. Godzilla was a special entry in the Godzilla franchise. It revived the series after a 7-year hiatus. It holds the record for the highest attendance of any film in the series, and for many fans through movie houses, drive-ins, and TV screens. It was the film that launched their obsession with the kaiju film genre. The panelists will discuss the history and impact of this classic film. I guess they didn't really specifically say which one, but I'm guessing they'll be talking about the original
thinking
version.
mainly the Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, the American edit's going to get touched upon. I would be surprised if it doesn't.
Yeah. And then I'm sort of surprised that they're going to be touching upon a non-kaiju genre in this anime show of the legacy of Attack on Titan, which just the manga just wrapped up here, I think about a year or several months ago, I believe, and then they're going to be wrapping up the anime on that. I think that would at least be something interesting, but again, like I said, it's not something
I could never get into Attack on Titan.
that you would see at a kaiju-centric convention.
Well,
but
I mean,
but like I said, it'd be something interesting to go to.
it's kaiju-esque.
But with, giant humanoids and everything, so.
Who act monsters.
And then right after that, we get a fan tribute of to Kira Takarada. It's probably going to be sort of the same thing with the panel from day 2 there. And then during that same time is going to be the Women of Kaiju Fandom. Now, I think that they've been sort of doing this kind of a yearly sort of panel with Jessica Sane, and I think with what was that one gal's name? I know she was in here. Christine Chaplin. And I know I've seen her.
I'm positive her last name's Chapin. I think that's a misspell.
I'm just going by with what's said on there, so we'll just go along with it. And then I think was it Matt Frank's wife was on the panel at one time.
Morgan?
Yeah, I think so. So it's probably going to be touching upon sort of the same thing every year, maybe just kind of change things up a little bit different there.
This makes me so mad. Legendary Godzilla vs. Kong. Folks, schedule this like on a Friday or a Saturday. I gotta leave Sunday. I gotta be back for an Elton John concert. That's why I'm leaving Sunday. Typically, I would stay until
Hey,
Sunday.
Martin, can you change this up?
help a guy out here.
And then after that, we get the awards for the costume contests, and then was it the model and other awards as well. Yeah, yep. Martin, he says, yep, Chapin.
I was right.
Yeah, so I thought it could have been Chapin or Chaplin, so.
I figured that had to be a misspell.
Oh, and he says, yeah, sure, we can shuffle that schedule.
Wow, I cannot believe I got pulled.
There you go. And so after the costume contest winners there at noon o'clock, we get Thunder Lizards of the Far East, a overview of Asian dinosaur movies. In addition to the likes of Godzilla and Rodan, there's a host of more traditional Asian dinosaur movies that often get overlooked. A look at some, Saurian-centric cinema and TV shows from Japan as well as from Korea and China. I think that would at least be something interesting to look at.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Yeah. Well, I know, I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel that's Chinese. I think it's some kind of film studio that.
The one that I shared with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the name either.
But yeah, I know we've sort of been talking about possibly doing some discussions and commentaries on those.
I think,
Chinese,
if I'm not
movies.
mistaken, I posted on our Facebook page an odd number of months ago. Might as well repost it just in case. I don't remember the actual Japanese name of this series, but it came to the Western shores as Attack of the Super Monsters, a combination of dinosaur and anime film. It was, what was it, like the first 4 episodes of that show put together into a film. It's a pretty funny film. It's got the T-Rex from Last Dinosaur in it.
And I bet you anything that they'll touch upon, was it God of the Monsters or something?
War of the God Monsters.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh man, that's a painful watch.
And then at 1 o'clock here at Grand Ballroom A's Titans and Elder Things, comparing themes and style in Kaiju Iga and the Cthulhu mythos. A few years after the H.P. Lovecraft's death in 1937, World War II forever changed the landscape of Japanese culture and eventually inspired the creation of Godzilla. While one can find ideas of cosmic horror in many kaiju stories and the occasional giant monster in Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, the 2 games approach similar subject matter from different perspectives. In this panel, an author of kaiju novels and
Go back to your optometrist.
Lovecraftian filmmaker explore the overlap between the 2 worlds. Well, I'll probably maybe take a peek.
Even if I'm not to, I can't attend.
There too. So. Well, maybe I can do a live stream on my phone for you.
Or just record it and like send me the thing through email. Especially this next one, the 50th anniversary celebration of Godzilla vs. Megalon, an underappreciated film, if you ask me. Especially when they oh shoot, what's the production studio that released that? I should know this. They brought out the actual full-length film, unedited and widescreen and all that back in 2012. Oh, come on. Anyways, I have a newfound appreciation for. I've always enjoyed it. I mean, that was the second Godzilla film we ever saw, and I got a greater appreciation for it when I saw it unedited and widescreen with a cleaner picture. Yeah, I think it's a better film than people give it credit for.
And then right at the same time here we get Untying Godzilla's Gordian Knot, King Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, be fixed. And I think this is sort of something that both you and I have talked about in past
a lot
episodes.
of people, anybody who has seen the film multiple times, have discussed it. It's not just us.
And so it says, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah is one of the most popular entries in the Heisei Godzilla series, but it also has one of the most confusing and convoluted scripts in the franchise. Why did the Futurans stop in '92 to pick up the main cast? How did everyone remember Godzilla when he was supposedly erased from history? Why did Emmy decide to turn on her comrades? Such are just a few of the questions fans have asked. Writer-podcaster Nathan Marchand, Monster Island Film Vault, Henshin Min, and The Power Trip, and author Daniel Demana of the Godzilla Novelization Project tried to answer in this script doctor session.
That could be a discussion where you could, I think, really get the crowd involved. I think that could be a rowdy panel there.
And I know that we had, like in the past episode when we discussed this film in itself, and we had maybe a half-hour discussion as far as the relationship between the main character, the main protagonist, and Emmy. Here, with them being related and all that stuff.
There are just some things you just want to touch upon and don't dive any further. But again, it's one of those elephant in the room type of situations.
Yeah, and I certainly hope I would definitely go to this one, and I would hope that someone brings up that sort of situation.
If they don't, then you're there. You're there to bring it up.
I'll have to go back on that episode and just kind of get a refresher on that whole discussion. So if no one does, I'll try to bring that up.
I just have to say for a split moment, like, first and foremost, why is that an important plot point? And second of all, why is it brought up right as the movie is about to end?
Yeah.
That's something I could never figure out.
And then right after that, you get Godzilla Across America. Is he a member of the All 50 States Club? Which sounds a bit unique. So as far as the description goes, it reads, since Godzilla raided New York City in a 1963 board game by Ideal Toy Corporation, he's attacked the United States many times, but how thorough has he been? Wikizilla bureaucrat Michael Clary will examine Godzilla films, shows, comics, video games, books, and more to see which states the King of Monsters is most fond of visiting, and if he's stopped all 50. And I know the answer to that, he has not.
You know for sure. Do you remember back in the late 90s when the 98 film came out, there was that young adult series written by Mark Saraceni. Well, and then even there was Scott Simonson, I think is his last name. A lot of those books,
yeah.
A lot of those took place in the States. Some obviously went international as well with their plots, but there always was sort of a U.S. component to most of those novels.
But I think he hasn't gone through all the 50 states. But so with that, at the same time here we get there's a figure of that obscure kaiju collectibles. Even a die-hard figure collector can only buy so many Shodai Goji figures before starting to crave something a little more unusual, which is sort of like me in a way. This panel covers some of the more unique offbeat merchandise of obscure kaiju characters from movies, comics, games, and even concept art.
You could argue the entire Ultraman library of kaiju.
Yeah, and I know I've seen pretty obscure figures over the years, and I know, and I've talked to Kent about this over the years when we've been going to GFEST here, that I think it kind of gets to that point where I want to try to get something that's a bit more unique and sort of stands out, and that's sort of what this whole panel is about, and I think that's sort of probably something that I would be interested in taking a look at there. And then right after that, we get, was it Tokusatsu, Kaiju and Tokusatsu YouTubers podcast roundtable. And it reads here, the Kaiju and Tokusatsu YouTube and podcasting communities have exploded over the last few years with shows ranging from collectibles to academic film appreciation to audio dramas. Several of the creators come together to discuss the art and craft of content creation. It's more than talking into a mic and take questions from fans and listeners in the audience there. So that'll be kind of something to look at there. And then the last panel, and I'm sort of surprised there isn't the was it the Titanosaurus was it get together or something that they usually do over the years.
Well, are you talking like the sing-alongs and all that?
Yeah.
That's because Stan can't make it this year.
Oh, okay.
That's
Gotcha.
why.
And so with this one here being the final one, it's the GMK look back on the controversial 2001 film, and I know you've discussed about this film in the past shows that we've done. It says GMK is an unusual entry into the Godzilla series. Kevin Horn explores how the film has been and remains a conversation starter between fans. Not only a celebration of the film's origin to theatrical release, but a look back at the kaiju themselves. There will be a surprise video during the presentation.
This is one I want you to take for me as well. By the way, for those of you who have never attended a convention or have, but maybe didn't get in on one of Kevin Horn's panels, he is really good. This guy is a walking encyclopedia. I mean, this guy, he can fill more than an hour's worth of content on whatever it is he's discussing. His panels are always very fun and informative, so definitely check it out. I find it interesting, though, that he is saying that it's a controversial film. My understanding, at least here in the West, I don't know about it, my understanding is that in Japan it's very popular. But I always thought here in the West, too, more fans loved the movie than didn't. I'm, again, in the minority of, I don't care much for GMK. I think it was a good attempt at doing something different. I just don't think the execution was really all that great. But that's interesting why you would think it's controversial, because I think more people love it than not.
Well, I think he's maybe sort of
unless you're talking about the politics, maybe like some of the politics, and because that one deals a little bit with World War II a bit.
Yeah, because with the ghosts, like the ghosts of the soldiers and stuff embodying into Godzilla,
yeah,
sort of thing. So overall, what do you think of the panels for this year's GFEST?
I mean, I think they're really good, and I think again, you got a lot of anniversary panels. A handful of those are holdovers from the last couple of years because there was no convention. So for someone like me who enjoys those types of panels, it's a real treat. Unfortunately, I can't make a couple of those, one due to schedule conflicts, because I'll have to pick one or the other. And then there's at least one I'm not going to be able to attend because I got to head home that Sunday. Well, actually, go all the way to the top of Sunday here.
Yeah, because this one is at 10 o'clock.
Maybe I'll attend that, maybe not. We'll see. I got a 3.5-hour drive. I'm not sure if I want to.
Yeah, because I mean, you're a lot shorter to Chicago than I am.
Oh, I know, but I'll have to think about that one.
But yeah,
I think it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, yeah, there's quite a few panels here that I know that we'll touch upon here, and then of course, dealer's room, and then GFEST channel, and then probably they'll have some kind of midway theater showing fan. I don't know if you know about that, Martin, where they kind of show a bunch of fan created and some of the like Gamera films and some of the other kaiju related films in some sort of midway theater that Regency, the Hyatt Regency, will have over there. Yeah, I think this will be a pretty interesting GFEST this year, and I know that I know we've ranked the GFEST that we've gone to over the years, so I think this might be kind of on the higher list from what we've seen here. So,
well, and then too, we haven't had one the last 2 years.
And then Martin, he just replied here, says, yes, I believe the film fest will be in the international ballrooms. Okay, awesome. Yeah, well, I know Ken and I, we've gone there off and on over the years, and I've really liked going into the Midway room there. So definitely, yeah. If you're going to be new at the GFEST this year, I would definitely check out the film festival. There, they'll show fan made movies as well as other kaiju movies that have been made by from Toei to Dai. Yeah,
they've occasionally shown like I think 19 the last time they showed some Godzilla the series cartoon episodes there, and then they've shown some Ultraman stuff in the past too.
Yeah, I think maybe the first two, maybe first 1 or 2 episodes from one of the series of the Ultraverse there. So yeah, definitely check that out as well. So, and then of course you'll have some activities for the young kids there, and then sculptured models, everything there. So yeah,
that'll be interesting if they're still going to do that, because I know Stan led a lot of the models and stuff.
Yeah.
So
all right.
But there you have it. That's GFEST 2022, GFEST 27. Thank you so much, Martin, and everyone else who has joined us on this live stream. And again, for those of you listening to the audio version of this, whenever it's released, just follow along on the GFan website for the schedule. Otherwise, this is going to be a dull listen.
Yeah, so as far as streaming, if you haven't subscribed to us, make sure to hit that red subscribe bell, and as well as that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up or smash that like button, as a lot of the people say out there. And you can also find us on Facebook, here on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and everything. And as far as our audio versions of the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and as well as TuneIn there as well. And so with Martin here, he says, thanks for showcasing all the hard work put in by our panel presenters. Hope we can chat there. Well, we'll definitely hope we can find you there in the sea of people there. So
you're busy. I know that. I know you're busy.
So thanks for giving us some of the tips there and everything, Martin. And thanks for watching, everyone. And I'm probably guessing we'll be doing our usual it's a few week break just to kind of digest everything from GFEST, and then kind of give our review,
have like a closing thoughts sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Maybe even at GFEST.